evening. Welcome. You listen to Live to Heart at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. This is a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice in beautiful Encino, California. Usually, my business partner, colleague, and friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe, joins me in this program as he has been since we started at KMET, and he has been doing self-quarantine for the past more than now 10 days, and the 2 weeks total is going to be up on Monday. So he's going to be joining us next week, and I'm looking forward to that. Actually, he was told that, the self-quarantine for the flight duration that he had was 10 days, but, the good citizen that he is and the good person that he is and the mindful person that he is, among many other good qualities that he has, he decided to go all the way for the whole 2 weeks. And he also had a COVID test on Wednesday, and the result was negative, but he said he wants to have a second one as well. So he's going all the way, and I think, that's the way that we all need to consider it. If we feel that there is a possibility that we have been exposed to COVID and or we have been, in contact with somebody, even though we don't have any symptoms, like he doesn't have any symptoms. Still, it's our duty, it's our responsibility for the sake of ourselves and for the sake of everyone else, in the family, colleagues, friends, neighborhood, community, to take charge of self-care. And, be mindful that, if they are telling us, if all these scientists, physicians, they are telling us, researchers, telling us that we need to have a, full 2 weeks of quarantine, and not only have the first COVID test negative, but run the second one so that we make sure we're not having a false negative reading. So he's taking all the steps, and I really admire him. It's been very challenging for him not to be at work and not to, attend to many things that he normally does. However, he understands, the much bigger picture of it, and he's focusing on how he can be, helpful and safe for everybody else. And I truly appreciate that, and I value that, and that's why I'm so feel privileged to be working with him, and he's a fantastic friend as well as a fantastic colleague. So having said all of that, I'm looking forward to have him join us back on next Friday and next Thursday. And I'm sure that he's going to have, his own side of the story to share about his experiences and what it meant to him, to do self-quarantine for this long. And I'm so happy that, he doesn't have any symptom and, his tests are negative. So he is also a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified hypnotherapist. And if he would be here, he would have said, we are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true self, which is open, calm, curious, emotionally available, connected, honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. And I really love, these words that he talks about, because that's exactly so true. And, so taking his words and going into the topic of today, which is codependency. It's really important to understand that how all those beautiful qualities that I just mentioned, and they kind of go in hiding and we lose them. I mean, what happens? I mean, Dr. Jaffe has his own way of describing them, which is really, insightful. And so for this program also, I'm using the same book, Codependent, Healing the Human Condition by Charles Whitfield, Dr. Charles Whitfield. And, it's really important to see how this process actually happens, right? Because why when we are born as beautiful and inside out as we are, what takes place that things changed, what happens, and let's just see what do we see, and basically uh, why do we go into the codependent phase of life, and what happens. So uh, um, we are born into our family. We don't have a choice on that. We don't select our family. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose our society. We don't choose our community, because when we are born, and this is a kind of random lottery situation, that who our parents become, who we choose, who we get, and who we end up, having as our parents. And then some people, as a result of not having an option or a choice of choosing their parents, they grew up in an unhealthy family of origin, and therefore in an unhealthy society. So why am I saying therefore in an unhealthy society? Because when parents are not healthy in terms of mentality, in terms of their insightfulness or understanding of what it takes to raise a healthy child, that's by itself is our initial society. That's the society of our own family. And then usually people connect to people that they are of this, have the same kind of attitude. So whatever parents way of life is, their friends, their uh, whomever they associate, extended family, they usually have a trace of that. So and we know that I received this article from Neuroscience Journal a few days ago that said how much culture is influential in everybody's life, basically. And then culture transfers, has a generational transfer, situation. I mean, whatever, I know, some of it I learned from my parents. My parents, they learned it from their parents, and their parents learned it from their parents. And then if you trace it back, we can go for centuries to see how these ideas, how these norms were shaped, and based on what context, what situation they were shaped, based on what needs they were shaped, and then how they were maintained, and then they were transferred, and each transference included the interpretation of those people who received the norms, and then they added their own form of understanding and insight to it, and lived by that, and then developed that, and then they transferred it to the next generation. And thankfully, we see that every generation is more advanced than the prior one. But then again, according to Neuroscience Journal, they talk about that how cultural norms and beliefs of people and their interpretations gradually has become, it becomes embodied in our mind, it becomes embodied in our body, it becomes embodied in our genes. And so therefore we know today that whatever we learn in our society, starting with our home environment, which is the initial society, it can actually have a genetic transformation to the next generation. And this is a very new finding, and this is a new understanding of the impact of culture on humans' life, and then how do we go by that living. And that's why it's so difficult, to change habits. It's so difficult to, have a different way of thinking or learning. And sometimes when we talk about habits that they are not healthy, we see that our clients become really shocked, and they say, well, how would that be wrong? Or how would that be, unhealthy? Because everybody does it. And they are correct. Everybody in their environment does that. That's that certain thing. But then again, when we look deeper, we will see that majority of those people are suffering from the same thing, and that's the feeling of being abandoned in this case. So yeah, that article of the neuroscience journal, it's really alarming. It's very educational. It's something that I myself have done research about the impact of culture on human beings' life, in particular their sexuality. And then we see that those confirmations are now showing up, and that's really, it's a good understanding of our lives and how we shape our ideas and our belief system. So in an unhealthy setting, we do not get our healthy human needs met. So that's including the ability to be real. And that's exactly it, because when we are living in an unhealthy environment, what are we getting? We are told what to do. We are told how to be. We are told how to think, how to behave. So many of the ideas and beliefs that we have, they are not ours. We did not create them. We did not make them. We did not come to a point of, okay, this is, my idea and I developed it. No, when we look at them deep enough, we will see that actually they are nothing but borrowed concepts. This is how my mom thinks. This is how my father thinks. This is how my siblings think and behave. So uh, that's basically the bottom line, unless we get to a point that we realize, well, these are not working for me anymore, and then that's where the challenge begins, and the fear of abandonment starts, because by the time we want to become our true self, that may not be acceptable. But then again, of course, we see that so many people thankfully do that, and this is how society grows. We don't live like our ancestors. So that means that we are able to apply our own ideas, our own belief system, and move forward with a beautiful life. However, we see for those who face the challenge of the not being able to have the ability to be real, to be their true self, we see that, there are many challenges on their way. And, of course, this unfolding, this becoming your real self has, at least two major, steps. And then, so to overcome these two major steps is the problem that creates, difficulties in life and brings many challenges in lives. And those are at least two issues here are fear of abandonment and then the toxic shame. And then what is being, abandoned basically is our true self, is all the qualities that we talked about, that, we are loving, authentic, we are open, we are calm, we are curious, we are emotionally available, we are connected, we are honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. So these aspects are easily, missed, and therefore we want to make sure that we are able to consider them, and then let's go through them and find out basically how what is exactly, fear of abandonment and toxic, shame. But I think our commercial break is coming up at any minute, and I would like to start back with those, right after commercial break, and I'm waiting for the signal to see if I'm accurate or not. Am I accurate, Jesse? Okay, all right. So then, okay, then I see you back in a few minutes after our commercial break. Thank you. Welcome back to commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. For those of you tuning in, our discussion for this segment is about abandonment and, codependency and toxic shame. And this is Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert. Usually Dr. Robert is here with us, but as I stated at the beginning of the program today, he's doing self-quarantine, which is going to be over by Monday. And I can't wait for him to come back here. So for those of you who are listening to our program live, I would like to encourage you to please call us and ask questions. Phone number at the station is live 951-922-3532. And then you may also watch this program, the archive ones, and you can go to SoundCloud, KMET 1490 page, and then go to playlist and then click on Heart-to-Heart. You can also visit us at YouTube. It is heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And we would appreciate if you introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from listening to these materials. So before commercial break, I talked about how we can grow up in an unhealthy environment, and I have to say this, that many parents who create an unhealthy environment, they themselves, they have no idea that this is what they're doing, and it's because nobody else told them that their behavior is unhealthy. Examples of that are harsh punishments and disciplines, and the dreams that they have for their kids, that their son or daughter is going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and they enforce that, or so many messages that pretty much is based on their dream rather than what the child wants to do when they grow up. And then they have a way of raising girls and boys differently from each other. So when those processes are not done mindfully, but they are done based on the norms and the culture of centuries before, which I explained how that happens, and we know that Journal of Neuroscience, magazine, they with their article have reconfirmed this fact. So this is how an unhealthy environment happens. Not that parents want to create it, but they follow the norms. And when they follow the norms without examination and re-examination of the process, of course, it can naturally create and recreate an unhealthy environment to grow children. So what is lost during this process is the selfhood, is the true self of the children and individuals who continue to grow up within those environments. And then, so why wouldn't somebody say something about it? When we feel uncomfortable, when we feel unhappy, why do we continue with the same patterns, right? Well, the first one is because fear of abandonment. And then a child may ask, and these are of course primarily done subconsciously, some done consciously when the child grows up to the point that they can understand the meanings and make sense of what's going on and understand that they are unhappy. They may say, if they say something, the question becomes, why would anyone want to abandon me? And then, because I must not be good enough. And that's the beginning. That's the beginning of the loss of selfhood. So the child may ask, they're afraid of being abandoned because we are so dependent on our parents. And then if they think that the parents are not loving towards them, they go to the fear of being abandoned. And then they ask themselves, why would they want to abandon me? I must not be a good one. I must not be, a child that they want. I'm not good enough. And then this constant abandonment of, our true self. So combined with the, projected, inadequacies and other, poisonous, situation of parents, peers, environment, community, it generates, a toxic shame. So nobody wants to be abandoned. Nobody wants to feel abandoned. And but as children, because we are so dependent on our parents for survival, we do experience fear of, rejecting what they say to us, fear of expressing what they say feels to us, and how we want to, survive this. And so we comply, right? When we comply, basically what happens is, during this process, we have to put aside our own authentic true self and accept an identity that is called our false self. And that identity is the identity that our community, our society imposes on us, right? So, for instance, in Western society, in the United States, we see that I actually have a client right now that I'm working with her. She's 9 years old, and it's the beginning of her puberty. She comes in with her mom, and we recently learned that she's been skipping school. Of course, she goes online. I mean, she does it virtually. But you'll be amazed at how children have learned how to skip school because they're so bored looking at the blank screen all day, and they just have lost that sense of connection to others. So we finally, fast forward, we learned that she has decided to skip school and not to go to school. Why? Okay, because some of her friends found a way to come up with other businesses that can potentially make them money, so that they don't need to go to school, especially school at this magnitude that we are experiencing it today. To them means nothing. And this girl is super smart. It's not like she's somebody who doesn't want to go to school or doesn't want to study, right? But through the imposition of certain websites that they have found, instead of paying attention to school material, because they are logged in, they are able to connect to other websites, and other people in social medias who are waiting for opportunity like this to access children, innocent children. They have been giving them information about how schooling these days are no longer effective, and they can make money some other way, and this is their new identity, and this is how they should be, this is how they need to grow up. And she has been changing her behavior according to what she's getting online, according to how her friends are now reshaping their behavior. And so parents, some of the parents have noticed change of behavior and have noticed what's going on. So finally, that's why she's in therapy, so that she can understand what's going on. And then significantly, she's now afraid of, her parents basically dumping her. And, basically she's very frightened, and she's kind of confused between now what is, the truth about herself and what is untrue about herself. So it's not just parents who are doing that. See, this is a good current example of how society imposes, ideas on our children that tell them what to be and how to be, and how to act. And they're using the opportunity of, virtual schooling to get into their minds and to, give them toxic information. And of course, so that's one form. And then this young child, she's fearful of being abandoned by her, circle of friends, and she's so, ashamed of, revealing the secret. So, and then of course, her parents then did give her, difficult punishment, which I'm not gonna go into that. And then so she feels abandoned on both sides, her parents' circle and also her, her friend circle. And she may actually get punishment from a school, like being, I don't know, expelled for 2 weeks or something. So this is one form that, when we can get exposed to an areas in life that, can be detrimental to our health. However, the key point here, that the key point of their survival for this child is her parents, because if they wouldn't have, punished her the way they punished her initially, she probably would have had a much healthier, process of taking care of her emotions as a result of learning that, she's not who she is. She was told, but then again, unfortunately, that didn't happen. And then this child did have, some predisposition to being her false self versus her true self growing up as a result of parental attitude and belief system. So you see, that's a good combination of how we develop, a sense of fear of being abandoned, because some of the punishment to her was that, the child won't have a place with the family anymore, not that she's ditching school. And of course, they didn't look into the fact of why she was ditching school, how did she come up with those ideas and all of that. But the child was to blame for not understanding the danger. Well, go figure, a 9-year-old, losing all of her friends, doing school virtually. And now, how would she, get a support system to share, to discuss, and her other friends, they all fell in the same trap. So fear of abandonment, and then that I must not have been a good child because this is what I did. Shame on me. And so that's the beginning of the road for this child, or it would have been the beginning for this child to grow up with the sense of that I'm not good enough. I didn't do well at the school, and I brought shame to my family. I deserve the punishment. I don't deserve anything good. And I mean, these are some of her words I'm repeating. So we can all see already that how much this situation and the way that parents, responded to the situation, and of course they have been prior ones as well, ultimately has initiated, the sense of codependency and the toxic shame, and the fear of being abandonment, and ultimately I'm not good enough in this child. So it's not just one area that does that. It's actually, it's a different dynamics that they are interconnected with each other that does that. And then, so because of the continued and overwhelming pain from abandonment, toxic shame, and other traumatic events. Like for this young girl, this is a significant traumatic event because she's been punished from every part of the, her circles, from school, from her friends, from her parents. So I'm so glad that she was able to see me, and I'm working on her, and this is the beginning of the road for her. So she's one of the lucky ones because she's gonna learn not to go through keep that toxic shame about herself, not to carry the fear of abandonment with herself. However, many people, many young children, many teenagers, many young adults, many adults, they never got this chance. They never got this opportunity. So when they, continue with the overwhelming pain, from abandonment, toxic shame, and other traumatic event, basically, our true self goes into the hiding. Okay, I need to be in a certain way to be accepted. I need to think in a certain way to be, connected. I need to act in a certain way to be accepted. So we see that, the cycle goes on and goes on, and then deep within, the unconscious part of, our psychic, our true self becomes buried right there. And then we perform as who we are not, which is our false self. And this is a wounding that, becomes what we call, the adult child syndrome. I have, a few clients that they definitely have this syndrome. And then so basically, while as children we experience many feelings states, a predominant one is emptiness. And it seems that no matter what we may experience, growing away in the background, is always a feeling of emptiness, which aches and, cries to be filled. And then that emptiness is not recognizing who we are. And as children, we don't know how to do that. We think we are what we are, you know. Children are so free to experience their feelings and they act on their feelings, right? Have you seen a child jumping up and down, you know, going from one side to the other side, and we don't know what's going on with them? Well, they're happy children, you know, when a child is happy, they act on their happiness and they just move around, you know, they feel jolly and they're loud, you know, they're active. Excuse me. So and that's the happiness. So let's get to this more, you know, after our commercial break. I just got the signal. Jesse, our, you know, technical director, is here to help me with the, you know, time adjustment. So look forward to see you back after a few short minutes. Thank you. Welcome back from our commercial. Dr. Mitra is here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, C News Radio. For those of you just tuning in, our discussion is about toxic shame and fear of abandonment as part of codependency. And then, you know, I'd like to encourage you to please give us a call. Our phone number here live at the station is 951-922-3532. You can also contact us, you know, privately if you don't wish to share your, you know, your content on the on live program, which is understandable. However, you know, when you do, you're helping so many other people who don't have an option to contact and ask their questions. So, and also we would like for you to share this program with others that you believe they can benefit from it. So we were talking about, you know, toxic shame and the fear of abandonment. So I was talking about the emptiness, and you know, I have a client that, you know, she's been abused growing up significantly, and she basically soon, you know, became the scapegoat of her family, right? And she still is the scapegoat of her family, even though now she's almost 40 years old. And of course, since she started to work with me, she has made, you know, significant changes in her life, which is, you know, that, you know, have helped her to basically kind of let go of some of that emptiness. However, you know, it's going to be a process for her. Years of being abused, verbally abused by her family, by her two, you know, elder brothers, parents, being controlled because, you know, she was a girl, and then in the name of protection and the name of that, you know, society is not safe for girls, she was forced to basically not being herself and follow the rules, the very harsh rules within family, in the name of safety, in the name of love, you know. And of course, you know, no matter how her parents were careful, she was molested several times by her cousins. So go figure, her parents are trying to save her from a much bigger society, but, you know, she was actually, you know, the danger was much closer than parents were thinking about. And that's usually the case, by the way. So, and then no matter how much this young woman, at the time a child, you know, told her parents that this cousin is hurting me, or that cousin or that uncle is hurting me, nobody believed her. And by the way, that's also a case that happens all the time. So, but then again, instead, she was told that she's a troublemaker and she's making people embarrassed. And so nobody paid attention to what she said. And over time, every time, you know, she acted out because she was hurt, and that emptiness was growing inside of her, that, you know, who am I? You know, why am I being treated this way? Who should I go to talk? And how am I going to keep myself safe? And she did everything to gain the love of her parents, the love of her brothers, at her own level, as much as as a child, that she could think about what to do and how to do it in order to gain back she thought that she has lost the love of her parents, but then again, this is how her parents knew how to give her love, right? Protect her. But then again, they failed to see that the danger was, much closer than they believed. And then they always wanted her to be proper. They always wanted her to act, in a way that was acceptable to the family. So her true self went into the hiding in the place of emptiness, in a place that it was not recognized, in a place that she couldn't, reveal about herself. And she continued life in a survivor mode. She continued life in a victim role, and did everything, for her parents' acceptance that she wasn't a bad girl, she wasn't, a rebelling girl, or she wasn't, a hostile girl like she was labeled. But then again, so she thought the more she complies with parental rule and sibling rules, she will be more loved, she will be more acceptable. But instead, she became more of a scapegoat every day and every day and every day and every day. And then, of course, growing up, that reflected into her relationship, because we subconsciously select, romantic partners that we are familiar with, even though if they are uncomfortable to handle, but because it's familiar, we get used to the abusive environment, we get used to toxic environment, and then we learn how to survive. Therefore, this is how we go on by choosing somebody for ourselves, for our adult relationships, for our romantic relationships, somebody that has the permission to abuse us, and we comply to gain, their love in order to keep the relationship, right? So you see, it's a pattern that we learn, and we continue to do it, and we continue to follow the same format until we get to a point of, I'm not happy, and I want to know why I'm not happy. So, and this is exactly what she did. Some of the issues that she's experiencing today are, number one, lack of trust. Significantly, she can't trust herself, her choices. She can't trust anybody else. If she receives less than what she believes is the minimal attention, then she becomes hostile towards the person. She has been into so many relationship, in and out of relationship, not just romantic one, but even with her colleagues, with everybody. So she actually has become that hostile girl that her parents used to call her, and they still do. So but she felt that emptiness. That emptiness was profound for her. So because of that, after she broke up with her latest fiance, she came to me, and she wanted to know what is it that she's doing wrong, what's going on, and how she can understand what her problem is. She even didn't know what her problem was, and she was actually exactly doing it right. She was at a place of confusion, at the place that she couldn't decide for herself. She couldn't trust herself about her choices, didn't know why she was always ending up in the same types of relationship, abusive. And so we have been working together, and within 6 months she recognized that emptiness aspect of her life. And if I want to give you an update about her, where she managed to move out of her parents' home finally. Now she has a solid job, and she's self-sufficient, and she is now able to maintain a relationship. But she has done it for 3 months now, so she's in a relationship. Still, she has a long way to go, but now she's beginning to understand how for her entire life she has lived as her false self and not her true self, not who she really has been. And we are working for her to have access to that authentic part of herself, which, now she's making remarkable, process. But the point of me sharing this story with you is to let you know that, no matter how we act as our false self, that true self, it goes in a hiding, it goes in that place that we call it emptiness, and it's just waiting for a time to flourish. It's just waiting for the right time to come outside. And then there are people who never realize that, and there are people who realize that. So this education that we are providing here is to help those that they don't realize what is the source of their unhappiness. And, we are hopeful that, those who are listening or those who are referred to our program are able to pick up some of the areas that, makes them unhappy, makes them, have a unsatisfactory or, a life that's not fulfilling. So this is the whole point of it. And that emptiness part of us is huge. It's not just a small part of us, but, for many people, like I said, no matter what they do or how they experience life, once we grow up, in this background, this is what we experience. And once we start to move away from this background, that's when we realize, who we are as our authentic true self. So some of the characteristics, if I want to share with you about what happens when, as a result of that emptiness, we see that on the surface, people, they are frustrated and they do many things to fill up that emptiness. So let's see what are some of the situations that happens in life. So we're looking at chronic depression, anxiety, right? We're looking at chemical dependencies, eating disorders, stress disorders, relationship addictions, and compulsive behaviors. So these are some of the actions that people go after because they're looking for that intense, sudden happiness. And but the reality is that, excuse me, that when people go for chemical dependency, they make a mistake that momental euphoric is not ultimate happiness. And that's something that I really want to focus on, and maybe we can have a program on that. And I'm going to say that momental euphoric is not ultimate happiness that people are looking for. But underneath all those actions that I mentioned to you, there is, a primary codependence, or adult child syndrome. And they're trying to fill that emptiness from outside rather than looking at how this lifestyle has made them feel. So there is a chronic emptiness. There is because there is a true self, is in a hiding place. It's because they have childhood woundings, and because they have been through many traumas, and because they have had, toxic shame, and because they have been fearful of being abandoned. So we see that these are, significantly, important for us to understand that once we see somebody on the surface that's going after drugs, alcohol, and or sex addictions or gambling or workaholic or wife beating or being angry all the time, those are the consequences of what's going on inside a person. It's easy for people to label somebody, oh, you don't want to be around this guy, or you don't want to have this woman as your wife. It's easy to say that. However, if somebody, wants to help, instead of labeling and reinforcing the label, it's always a good idea to refer these people to a professional who can help them, for there are so many addiction recovery systems. There are so many therapists who are trained about addictions, and there are so many therapists who are trained about, sex addictions and sex therapists. I mean, help is there. So instead of getting caught in who's bad, who's not, and who's wrong, who's right, and labeling each other, it's best to, when we see somebody that's not acting in a way that's favorable to many people and they seem to be unhappy, believe me, this type of people, codependent people, they don't enjoy themselves to be that way either. Somebody who is experiencing addiction, they're not happy about themselves. Somebody who has sexual problems, they're not happy about themselves. Nobody wants to be in those stages of life. Nobody wants to feel, always invalidated. Nobody wants to have fear of, what to do next, or nobody wants to have, ongoing traumas, because some of these traumas that they are happen, they are pervasive. They are following us everywhere. So instead of, just letting them be that way, or continue to label them, continue to make them feel like an scapegoat, it is always a good idea to, refer them to somebody that can help them. For example, you can tell one of your people that is suffering from codependency. You can tell them, you're hearing this program on the radio, so that's a good source. Why don't you just come with us and listen to what they say? Or not just this program, any program, as a matter of fact, that they are offering educational material, because this is how help starts, right? If you really care about somebody, don't let them stay in their stage of codependency. Don't let them stay in the stage of life as their false self. But just offer help, offer information, offer connection, and just it feels so good to help somebody that you see they are suffering. It feels so good that when you can help somebody. And I'm so grateful for my job, because I am in a business of helping others, and one of the ways that I do it is providing information via these programs. So I hope that today's program was beneficial to you. And there is so much for us to talk about codependency, and as a result of trauma, as a result of life growing up, and how those end up in with addictions, and how they impact our relationships. There is so much to learn about those. There is so much to say about those. I'd like to invite you at this point to join me next Thursday at 3 p.m. where I'm going to be talking about another aspects of human sexuality. And then next Friday, please join us. This time Dr. Jaffe is going to be here, and I'm looking forward to that. And we will be talking more about the matter of growing up as codependent, the traumas that are causing that, the fear of abandonment, the toxic shame, and how ultimately all of these are impacting our relationships. So I believe we are at the end of our program. Am I correct, Jesse? 10 seconds. So I just want to say goodbye to you, and don't forget that be safe, be well, and until the next time we meet, all you need is love. Have a wonderful weekend.